Alright, hey sisters. That's terrible. I'm not gonna do that ever again. Oh, please, never make me say that. Alright, we're back. Oh goodness. Alright, microphone is it's been a while since the last stream, haven't I? Welcome back, people. You probably haven't missed me. I probably haven't missed you either. But we'll be back at school in 2 weeks, so surprise, surprise, we are here. So, what's happening? We are going to be going through a practice language analysis. I think my webcam is glitching, so let me just flip to Firefox for a bit here to explain the task while I'm fixing my webcam. But what we are doing today is we are going to go through what a language analysis at Year 11, Year 12 will look like. We're basically preparing you very much the way we prepare a Year 12. So let's double check the webcam. Well, I am frozen as well. At least it's not a bad look. Let me just fix that. Let me do that. That is slightly better. Okay. So, welcome people. I'm just checking in here. Yeah, I could get rid of the Grove Asian book, but and I'm sure there's more interesting things to put in our live stream. So, we have a very juicy article. Like my clickbait, by the way. Got some James Charles. I mean, it sold last year. I mean, what's happening this year? We've got Jeffree Star. We've got Susie Liu happening right now. So we've got a bunch of stuff in the drama scene. But we're going to look at some of the opinion articles around it. Now, this is the article which I gave to you, my class. If you did I type or something? That's horrible. Let me fix that. Ugh. That is not good English. I'll fix that on my screen. Not that it really matters, but there we go. I've got Shui's in here. Just in case I need some extra help, I've got Shui's in just to look at the answers. That's there as an example. But I'm going to go through what this looks like. So, I was going to do this in one video, but I thought I'd do it in two instead. So the first part, we're going through how I read a language analysis, and perhaps tomorrow look at how to plan the response and how to write the essay. There are quite a few things which I've covered, which is quite important for this exercise. There are a few things which I haven't yet covered, but I think we'll demonstrate this, so that way you know what it looks like before you do anything else. So, what we have right now is what's called Section C. Now, understanding Year 12, there are 3 essays you do in your end of year exam. Assuming nothing changes, no coronavirus 2.0. But in Year 11, assuming all things go ahead, you have 2 essays to write in 2 hours. So you have a language analysis and you have a text response. Now in Year 12, it's a language analysis, text response, and comparative. You might think, gee, please don't get back to school right now. I agree with you. Now, it's actually, okay, it's not easy, but if you know how to prepare for it, how to mentally get excited, I guess, to shotgun all 3 essays, it's doable. It's not easy, but it's doable. So, Section C is what we traditionally call the third section of the exam, and that is the language analysis. So, you get a set of instructions, which tells you what to do. Basically, you all know that you're meant to be writing a text response. Wow, language analysis, epic fail there. Right? This is live, unfortunately. So, what will happen? And all these things are here for a reason. I'm sure there's some like urban legends about this, but everything here is here for a reason. So make sure we read the instructions. They don't change, but just make sure you read the instructions because people always ask, what do we do? So Section C requires students to analyze the ways in which language and visual features are used to present a point of view. In other words, write a language analysis essay. Also note visual features that are usually some kind of graphic, a photograph, a cartoon, a diagram, or something which adds to the article. Never ignore the visuals. Section C is worth 1/3 of the total assessment of the examination. So far, so good. Read the opinion piece by a blog task below. Write your analysis as a coherently structured piece of prose. Now, what this means is write in plain English. Prose means you are writing in formal writing. Now, the opposite of prose is poetry. Now, I can imagine at some point that before this instruction was written down, somebody decided to write a text response or a language analysis as a poem. And because there was no instruction which said not to do that, then technically it had to be marked. I think these days you have the instruction on your exam where you must write the responses in English. You might think, well, duh, why wouldn't you write it in English? Well, there must have been a point. I've heard this story before. I'm not sure if it's true. It might be an urban legend. But before there was that particular instruction, someone wrote the English essay in French. And because there was no rule against it, then they had to mark it. So I don't know if it's true, but that is what I've heard. And that's why we had these very, very specific instructions. Now, what you get with all language analysis articles in the exam is background information. Now, you won't know what the topic will be in advance. It's not like you do, year 9 or year 10 issues where we learn about bullying or learn about junk food, and therefore the article will be about junk food or bullying junk food. You will not know. Okay, it is always going to be a random article, might not be recent, might not be relevant. It's just going to be an article. And look, spoiler alert, as teachers, we're kind of lazy. We just kind of use pre-made articles and we just use them every 2 years or so. So they're pretty abstract articles. What you're being examined on isn't your understanding of the issue or how well you empathize or relate or argue the issue. You're being marked on your ability to analyze language, which means it doesn't matter what the issue is. What matters is how you can deconstruct and explain how a particular person is presenting a point of view. But to help you out, every time we have one of these tasks, you will get a box which says background information. This is a crucial piece of information. Never skip this because this will explain what you don't know. We don't assume that everybody knows about this drama of James Charles and Tati Westbrook and Jeffree Star and all that. We don't assume, especially now it's last year, so it's like irrelevant now. So nobody knows about it, nobody cares. But that's the nature of YouTube. But you assume that. We assume you don't know what it means or what it is, so we explain in background. So we have, in this case, the background information. It provides most of what you need for the introduction. We'll get to that later on, but this is basically what you need to explain in the introduction. So we'll read together. In May 2019, popular beauty YouTubers Tati Westbrook and James Charles engaged in a public feud. Westbrook published a video in which she made multiple allegations of betrayal and dishonesty by Charles, whom she assisted in launching his career. This led to a massive backlash on the internet, with Charles losing millions of followers in the following days, which got back, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. This article appeared on popular social media website Mamma Mia, summarizing and providing a perspective on the behaviors of Westbrook and Charles. By the way, when we talk about people involved, we normally use the last name. We use the first name at least, the full name at least once, and we normally refer to the last name. That's a formality in English writing. So James is his first name, Charles is his last name. I think this is his screen name anyway, but James Charles. Call him Charles because that's his thing. We have a photograph or a screen cap from his apology video. This will be relevant later on. Now, what do we do? Okay, so our goal for this examination, this analysis, is we need to identify contention, we need to identify the main argument, and we need to identify persuasive techniques. Remember, the goal of this task is to analyze language. I keep on saying that, duh, of course it is. But we have to be able to explain what the person is arguing and how they argue it. All right, and why is the third one. So what they're saying, why they're saying it, and how they're saying it. So you might think, Well, all right. The first thing to establish is, by the way, before that, the author is Claire Stevens. Now, we've mentioned the past few days where it's good to understand where this person's coming from. Who is this person? Where they're coming from? Why they're writing this? We don't have any information about this person. So, as far as we know, the author is relevant, so there's no personal bias that we can identify. Mamma Mia tends to be a bit more liberal. They tend to push more of the feminist agenda, for example, more equal rights and that sort of thing. So that there is a bit of a bias, but we can't really associate much here. Normally, we'll provide information if it's irrelevant. If it's not there, don't read into much. So Claire Stevens, as far as we know, is a nobody for this article. We're not going to worry about too much about bias, but we can read into it a bit more. Now, more importantly, we need to establish this person's contention, all right? We don't have to read the entire article start to finish. We need to understand what their point of view is, what their main argument is, which side they are on right away. Is she a pro James Charles side, or is she pro Tati Westbrook? Which side is she arguing, or is she providing a different perspective? Now, you might think, okay, well in that case, let's read the article start to finish and figure it out. No, we're not going to do that. Who reads articles start to finish? That's ridiculous. No, but what I'm going to show you is what we call a pro gamer move. So we're going to establish what the contention is. All right, what is the contention? Now, this is the hack method of doing this. So rather than read start to finish, let's establish right away which side is she on. Okay, so there are 3 places to look when you want to find contention right away. Either it's the heading, the first paragraph, or the last paragraph, or all 3, okay? So, are there any clues here? The title is A Global Pylon. James Charles may have done some horrible things, but he's 19. Let's say the word but here, okay? That's already here. I'm going to highlight this because this indicates something. But he's 19. The but kind of suggests that, but he's 19, maybe we should forgive him. That's already a clue that this is an article which is defending James Charles. And we might make a little comment here. Here we go. So, contention, defending James Charles. We might refine this a bit later on. But I've read this already. I did it last year with my other class. But I'll do it again from start. Alright, so there's a clue right there. Now, the first paragraph, last Friday, women entitled Westbrook, blah, blah, this doesn't tell us anything. So we won't find it there. The last paragraph, the last line, we have, but 5 days later, with the online world turned against one individual, what are we role modeling now? Okay, so it might be contention, people hating on JC is a bad thing. Alright, and that's a hack method of finding contention. Alright, any questions so far, just ask in chat, by the way. But that's pretty much how we do things. We don't have to do things in order. So, well, right away, first thing to look at is title, first line, last line. And you probably find the contention somewhere in there. Knowing that this person is defending James Charles, we can read through the rest of the article and make more sense of it. Now, I'm going to make a very big point here. One of the biggest mistakes we make is there are 2 things we do wrong. The first thing we do wrong is that we go straight to finding persuasive techniques. This may be how you get taught in year 7, year 8, where you learn about statistics, you learn about emotive language or anecdotes, and you start scanning, you give it an example of this technique, and then you start finding it in the text. That's what most people do, is just label and highlight techniques. That's not really what you're looking for, and especially at VCE, the exam reports will say that that's not the point. I mean, it's important to know the techniques and the meta language, but it's not important to just list every single one. And in fact, you shouldn't be listing every single one, and we'll go back to that a bit later. But don't just immediately scan for these things. I'm going to show you when I read this, I would name a technique, but also about why it's being used and how it's being used. That's far more important. The second mistake, and this is more for these kind of articles, is that when people get these articles, they often get carried away by quotes. Now, we have to remember there's a difference between the person's opinion and when she's quoting experts. When we looked at the practice article last time, the gaming one, which is turning people to monsters, people were, a lot of my year 8s who I gave it to were actually saying Donald Trump's opinion was the same opinion as the author of the article. The author was quoting or paraphrasing Donald Trump, so people were getting confused between people quoting someone else's point of view to rebut or to argue against and their own person's point of view. And this is relevant here. So let's read through carefully, and knowing that she's defending James Charles, this will make more sense. Last Friday, a woman named Tati Westbrook uploaded a 43-minute video on YouTube. Who does that? New sensei. This is the hardest video I've ever had to make, she wrote below it, plugging in a supplement brand, Halo Beauty, in the same paragraph. Now, this section here is mostly just reporting on facts. So there's no argumentation, don't read in too much. So in some cases, you will see people quoting others. This isn't necessarily argumentative or persuasive. That said though, I find this inclusion to be interesting, and I'm going to highlight here why mention this now. I'll come back to it later. Alright, so plugging a supplement brand, Halo Beauty, in the same paragraph. There's a reason why she's doing this, because the whole thing, by the way, is about plugging beauty products and self-promotion and marketing. And the fact that she's making it like a tea-spilling video, a call-out video, a drama video, while plugging her brand, the reason why Claire mentions it might be a bit of a cheap shot towards Tati. In the video, the 37-year-old beauty YouTuber explained her feud with 19-year-old James Charles, which boiled over when she endorsed a competitor of Westbrook's brand, a line of gummy vitamins known as Sugar Bear Hair. I'm gonna highlight this is kind of, there's something emotive or loaded with boiled. Talk about like heated up, right? Heat up. This is not persuasive in itself, but it might lead into the whole tone of what you're saying. While this is what triggered their public falling out, Westbrook insisted her relationship with James Charles wasn't transactional or based on money. Maybe there's something there, right? This might be a callback to plugging brand. This might come back together. By the way, it's nice to highlight things separately. Can we actually highlight different colors? So I think this, let's make it pink, and this are linked for a reason, and this might come back later on. This was the last straw in a line of disrespectful behavior, she said, which included allegedly trying to trick straight men into thinking they're gay, creating overly sexualized content, and using the people around them. Again, this is just reporting the facts, not persuasive. Again, quoting Westbrook, fame, power, and a fat bank account would change almost anyone, Westbrook said with Charles. Man, I remember this this video. In a matter of days, the tennis YouTuber has lost 2.6 million subscribers and counting. He's been, wow, I wish I had that many subscribers. He's been unfollowed by some of the biggest names on social media, including Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian, blah, 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 blah. Many of whom didn't just follow his account, but know him personally. Again, reporting on facts, but I think this may be indicating something, alright? This may be linked towards building empathy, making us feel sorry for the topic of this discussion, alright? So why would we report on James Charles and not Tati Westbrook? So there might be a bias here, so we're trying to feel sorry for this person. If you search James Charles on Twitter, your feed is flooded with videos of people dancing to his apology video, footage of his pop-up store completely empty, GIFs captioned Tati Westbrook dancing on James Charles' grave, jokes about people attending his funeral, and running rail tallies of his subscriber count. I actually showed this live in my class last year, alright? So this is, by the way, it turned out that James Charles was right and she was wrong, but that was funny at the time. But this could be, and we'll highlight this, again, kind of building empathy. Emotional reaction, building empathy, making us feel bad. Sorry for JC. And I really want to stress, notice how I'm not really putting in a lot of technique right now. I will later on, but right now I'm looking at why people are doing this rather than what is being presented. Okay, so not the technique so much, but why it's being done. I'll worry about technique later. More important is, what is the function? What is the intention behind all this? Remember, contention, what they believe, intention, what are they trying to achieve? According to a number of memes, he's been metaphorically, look, the metaphor, handed the baton of most hated YouTuber. Again, why we're doing this, we might be again talking about, I'll just comment this, making us feel really bad about JC. All right, so something about this combination, and we always find combinations. Why do these three things count? All right, why do we talk about sub counts and dropping? Why do we talk about this very savagery of James Charles? Why do we talk about the most hated YouTuber? Remember, we're not trying to argue that he is, but she's using this as a foil. She's setting up the whole argument first, and then she's knocking it down. So, this is where we now go to our argument. The reason the story of a messy feud between a mentor and a protege has gone so viral is because it speaks to a number of universal experiences people felt victim to. Alright, this might be an appeal here. This is definitely appeal. Appeal to what? Appeal, and it may be, okay, it's not really an anecdote. We don't have a personal story yet, but it's an appeal to, definitely emotions, appeal to personal experience, and we start thinking about the next few lines, all right? And notice here that this particular section, she does this quite a few times, there is some very loaded language. Firstly, short or one-word sentences. Why? Always mention why. Impact, all right? Hits hard in the feels. Equals, why do we do this? We want immediate trigger reaction. Alright, so all these words are very loaded. Ungratefulness, public betrayal. And we will highlight this too. And I will comment. Okay, so these are heavily loaded words. And what that means is, we didn't just say like betrayal lightly. Betrayal carries a certain meaning. It means there's trust. I mean there's a lot of lack of loyalty. So these are heavy loaded words. Suggest a very heavy, serious reaction. All right. And this is also repeatedly apologizing. We said that repeatedly apologizing for the behavior of someone you love. Again, we're playing with emotions here. All right, so playing with the emotions, feelings, makes reader think about. And this is what we have to do as people analyze language. What are we trying to do? We're trying to make the reader think about times where we've had similar experiences. All right, this is definitely a deliberate move. Why include all these things? Because we want to make the reader feel like, oh, that's like the time where my ex, what a snake, she said these things about me, she betrayed me, she outed me on Facebook. That's what she's trying to do, is to make the reader connect to a personal feeling of betrayal. These things go together. Always, we call it chunking, by the way. So we mentioned later on we start planning, but chunking is important. There are different kinds of arguments, and this is definitely an emotional argument. We call it pathos in the Aristotelian model. So there's ethos, logos, pathos. Logos is logic, ethos is authority, pathos is emotion. There's no authority, okay? Claire Stevens has no authority to talk about this. She's nobody. This is logical to an extent, perhaps, but she's definitely playing our emotions. Just like most of these YouTubers are, they're playing to emotional reactions, but as a response, she's definitely playing to our emotions. Just make us empathize with James Charles. Now, that's the initial tone. So this is a very blunt, straightforward tone. Now it kind of moves back to a different register. We go from a formal, informal register, very blunt, to something a bit more formal. It also weaves a narrative about justice. Narrative has all sorts of connotation. Okay, connotation is, for those who don't know, connotation is when you have a word, like you have literal meanings of words. Like a narrative is a story. A story is a piece of writing. But when we say narrative and story, it implies a fiction. We can definitely say that the author is probably using this word for a particular reason. Rather than say this incident or this exchange, the word narrative means a fiction, which means this justice is false. That's heavy, all right? You want A+ results. You're going to start reading into these specific words. You're going to be super semantic and pedantic about how we do these things. So it weaves a narrative about justice, about calling someone out who deserves it. This is definitely it's slang these days, calling out, spilling tea, but I'm really wouldn't really say it's a thing here. Someone calling someone who deserves it and watching them fall. About everyone finally knowing the truth about a bad person. I love this. The word bad person. It sounds like it's like a personification. Not really, but it's kind of like it's a label. And it's almost sarcastic. It's like calling someone like bad guy. So it's not James Charles, it's anybody else, all right? And this is a typical narrative. So this is your typical story. You have the bad guy, you get caught up for being a bad guy, and therefore you enjoy watching this person fail because he's a bad guy, all right? That's what we're trying to do here. So this is almost like it's like it's appealing to a trope or to a stereotype, okay? And in this case, I always make a note, even in writing these things on paper, you will forget why you highlight things. True? Alright? If it's true, just say type F in chat. You will highlight something on your sheet and forget why you highlighted it. Make sure your notes are comprehensive. Easy, it's very easy on a Google Doc because it's digital, it's saved. It's less easy on paper because you have less space to write on, but you've got to make these notes. In this case, the stereotype is we want the bad guy to fail. Alright? And also, we are good guys. Alright? And all this being said to make us feel empowered. To the masses who have cancelled, to the masses, it's kind of like, let's do another comment here. Is she calling us, the reader, out? Because many of us, or many readers at the time, were part of this. Okay, to the masses, a little nasty, last move. You have cancelled. Again, a little slang term there. This is definitely we'll include this because you can tell that this person who wrote this is more in the scene. All right, so it's slang, colloquialism, shows us that the writer is one of us. So rather than a politician or a teacher who's just saying, to the audience who have decided not to watch James Charles. No, obviously we're going to use the word cancelled. We know what it means, but people who don't know what it means, literally means, what does it mean cancelled? James Charles kind of show that the word cancelled means you basically, you shame this person. He's no longer a person, but an ideology. Ooh, dehumanizing, alright? Accusing opponents of dehumanizing, alright? Why? It builds empathy with the reader. We're going to feel sorry for him. His arrogance and ego and his loyalty. By the way, we have to do this, alright? This is a sarcastic paraphrasing of opposing contention. Alright? Wording is over dramatic to make it look silly. When I see a lot of people analyze articles, again, we need to look at the whole thing. Why do we need to understand contention first? Because if you don't understand which side she's on, I've had this in the past. Last year's my class when I did this, people were saying that Claire Stevens was saying we should cancel James Charles because he's a bad guy. Because she said so right here. People, you've got to understand sarcasm. All right, it's. I know it seems so obvious when you hear it. All right, you can say, "Oh yeah, Hamish is the smartest kid in my class." You can tell when sorry, Hamish. You can tell when someone's being sarcastic, but when you see it in writing, you don't hear it. You have to hear the author's voice to make sense of this. Because if you say this literally, if you literally see this and you go, he is arrogant and egotistic and disloyal, and he's the bad guy. If you take it literally, then yes, she's saying James Charles is bad. But when you put it in the context, when you see what happened before that and what she's arguing, you will realize she's not saying that. She's making fun of people who are saying this. That's a very important distinction. People get this wrong. pay attention to when people are rebutting, who are paraphrasing, who are being sarcastic, because this is actually one of the top 10 mistakes we see in language analysis. All right, where were we? Except James Charles is okay. There we go. He's villain in tragedy, destroyed by his own hubris. Except James Charles is James Charles, the 19-year-old, who, like many 19-year-olds, has done some stupid things. Now, this again, we come back. All right. Now we are humanizing JC. So we are subverting the opposing argument and builds empathy by reminding us that JC is human like us. All right, that's thing. So what about the techniques later? Let's just worry about this the why. So who, like me, 90-year-olds, okay, has done stupid things, and it's just done to connect to the audience. And remember, the audience, probably younger readers, because a lot of the people who watch James Charles and Tardy and Jeffree Star, they're all young people, younger viewers. They might be in the 20s, who might recall their 19-year-old days with some really stupid things, that sort of thing, who allegedly behave inappropriately with men. She repeats this, by the way. The word's repetition. There's one there. All right, this happened twice, but this isn't a this is a repetition. Very subtle repetition. Very, very subtle. Why do I do that? This is a very subtle repetition. So repetition of allege. Why? It reinforces the uncertainty. When we do language analysis, don't just say this person uses repetition. I've got to say this. Oh my goodness. Okay. Next thing on my top 10 hates of language analysis. The most generic analysis. This person uses repetition to make the reader remember the word. It's as bad as this person uses emotive language to make the reader feel emotive. I've seen this stuff. I'm serious. People write this in their essays. Don't do this, please. All right. So don't just say this person uses repetition to make us remember. She uses repetition to reinforce uncertainty. All right. I'm adding intention, purpose, intention to this piece. So why have we repeated allegedly? Not because it's not true, but because this is an accusation. Alright, he was accused of being vulgar in how he speaks about sexual encounters. He endorsed a supplement brand that's a competitor to one owned by his good friend. Oh, is this a bit of a callback here? Alright, so this is a callback to first paragraph, kind of hinting that Westbrook is also a bad person because of this. And the word who is repeated, all right? This sentence structure, we can say repetition. Repeated sentence structure, starting with who. Why? Because kind of driving the point home that this is the wrong way of seeing things, okay? Or the right way. This is the right way. Again, always read into what the person is trying to do. And we once again have the short sentence structure. Punchy, direct, honest truth. But who hasn't been found guilty of a crime has apologized. And this together, all right, this is kind of like how do we say this? This is kind of like a pairing, all right. So it's reminds us that he is innocent and he has apologized. Therefore, what is wrong? So one thing I want to, this is again one of our top 10s for like what we shouldn't do with language analysis. Don't try to explain what the author is already saying, okay? Your job isn't to repeat what they're saying and then argue it. People say, well, the author says that he is innocent because he hasn't been proven guilty, and they're like, don't try to be the author. Get into their mindset and understand how they wrote the article and what they were thinking when they wrote the article, but don't be the author and try to argue yourself. A lot of people do this. I've seen this a lot, but don't try to explain the argument. You need to explain how it works. And who's at the bottom? A global pylon that is entirely disproportionate to what is actually done. I like this phrase here. This is a bit it's a bit on the loaded side, so kind of emotive, kind of blown out. This is literally blown out of proportion. Okay. So there's a couple of words here. There's that, and there's this the global pylon. This is just one person, but everybody establishes the scale of the drama. Alright, as in most cases of public shaming, the mob, the mob, alright, this is almost an attack. Calling critics mob. Why? Because mobs are brainless and unruly, rabble, uncivilized. That's what we call mob, okay? When you call, like, we don't say the critics or the group of people. No, it's a mob. Mob is a game mentality. It's a bad connotation. Again, connotation is there. Have stripped James Charles of all his humanity. That's actually what you did before, right? So this reinforces the argument that JC is being dehumanized. Nothing he says will be listened to. Nothing he feels will be legitimate. Repetition. The pattern was 3. But pro tip, by the way, the best repetition happens in 3s. So always nothing is who, nothing. So repetition. There is a pattern of 3. Okay. Nothing implies that he is nothing. Again, makes us feel bad about what people have done to JC. Who decides when the punishment is enough? Alright, people, this is classic Year 7 language analysis, okay? This is obviously rhetorical questions. Now, again, top 10 mistakes in language analysis. I probably have like 15 by now. Not every question is rhetorical. Just because you see a question mark doesn't mean it's rhetorical. In this case, it is. So you're fine. Okay, so this is rhetorical, but why is it rhetorical? Tells us, or suggests, that no one has the right to judge. Alright, so that's why it's rhetorical, because we can say, who decides the punishment? Well, not us. We want them to disappear from public life, it would seem, and for them to be stripped of all influence and any opportunities. We want them to be silent, we want them gone. Okay, again, we have the repetition again. We, why don't I say that, right? We, repetition, alright, we, alright, again, reinforcing, the wrong mentality, or the wrong mentality in this case, okay? Well, why repetition? We also, okay, we seem to have inclusive. All right, I'm gonna do this inclusive because we is always inclusive. We, us, are examples of inclusive language, but in this case, there's a bit of ironic inclusivity because she's actually inclusivity. What am I right? Whatever, inclusiveness. So the reason why is that we as the reader, because she's assuming as a reader that you're not necessarily the people causing the drama, but she's kind of like pretending to be one of the critics, or should I say, the haters. Okay, so she's pretending. Again, people, recognize when people are paraphrasing, being sarcastic. Definitely sarcasm here. Alright, I might include this too. Come on, edit this. Alright. And being sarcastic in that, oh, we want to ruin his life. We want to cancel this person. Obviously, we don't want to. But that's what she's trying to call out here, this mindset. That's a logical conclusion of the James Charles is cancelled bandwagon. bandwagon, this is I mean, it's not slang, but also, again, we kind of loading, it's loaded, alright? So connotation, ties in with the mob before, equals people aren't thinking for themselves. Because mob mentality, people don't think for themselves. So the bandwagon, people go on it because it's popular. That's what the slang means, by the way. Everyone jumps on the bandwagon, everyone's joining in because everyone else is. It's harder with saying it's dangerous. How is a person, let alone a teenager, okay, we're playing the human card here, alright? Again, humanizing JC, making him look vulnerable because he is teenager, like you guys, because you're obviously very smart people. Meant to cope, and we have the repetition. We have the comment, yes. We have the rhetorical questions, a series of rhetorical questions. Exposes the harsh truth of his treatment. Meant to cope with knowledge that the whole world hates him. Very loaded language. This is the word hate. It's very heavy. Emotive. Why is it emotive? Don't say it's emotive. It triggers negative, hostile reaction. Fight or flight. It's a very fighting word. It's not disliking, but kind of like it's a hate word, literally. That they've done something so bad, reinforcing the emotive language. So bad, so wrong, so shameful. What a combination here, right? Love the combo, alright? So we have the repetition of so combined with three synonyms for negative actions or feelings. Bad, wrong, and shameful actually mean the same thing. But why is it repeated? To make it look so bad. There's no room for redemption. A little alliterative here. Room for redemption. It's clever. It's not really a big thing. But think of the combination. Alliterative. So room and redemption rolls off the tongue quite nicely. It's almost like a very it's sassy, a sassy way to push back. Okay, no, clap back. That's how we do things. To clap back at the audience, the reader. In real life, there are no perfect heroes and no pure villains. All right, and we have again the logic. This is definitely put logic here. Logically, no one is perfect. No one is truly good or bad. And that's reinforced. James sounds like every single one of us. Again, appeal to sympathy. And makes reader feel guilty. Is good or bad. In a video, Tati Westbrook said the main motivator for calling out James Charles public was that his audience made of 12 to 14-year-olds and his role modeling them was bad behavior. But 5 days later, with the online world turning against one individual, what are we role modeling now? Alright, and it ends the rhetorical. Let me add to this. Ends on rhetorical question. Poses the question to readers. Veiled attack on the reader. And accuses them indirectly of being immature 12-year-olds. Alright? And that's how we read the article. Okay? So, what can I conclude? That was a nice 40-minute stream. We're doing pretty well there. Alright? What can we conclude from this? What we can conclude right now with this is that this is obviously a pro James Charles, at least like defending James Charles. I have definitely seen people analyze this the opposite way and miss the entire point. If you do that, you're pretty much screwed. There's no way around that. So, we just sum up the main arguments. We'll type in them below here, right? So, what is contention? Oh, why do I do that? Okay, there we go. Okay, so, let's summarize this. So, contention. Author, just notes here, author is defending James Charles against the viral hatred that happened to him. We'll rephrase this better later. arguments. This is where people have a hard time, because how do you summarize the main arguments? And we kind of have a few different things here. The nodes are kind of blown out of proportion, but this is where things get a little trickier. So what were the main arguments? And there are no right answers specifically. There are definitely ways you can read arguments into what you said, because people are going to say, it's not like debating where you have like, my first argument is this and my second argument is this. All right, so you have to kind of read between the lines a bit and figure out what are the main points. So we need to kind of judge how this person is forming the main point here. I definitely think one of the arguments is JC is being unfairly dehumanized. Number 2, JC is this might be the same point here too, so we might link it together, but for now we can make it separate. JC is a teenager and is allowed to make mistakes like everyone else. And number 3, let's see, what happened with a ledger? I didn't realize how long that was for. Okay, and our third argument is that, let's see, we are being poor role models to other young people. Okay, that's, I mean, are these the 3 best arguments? Maybe, maybe not, but in like 2 minutes I did this. I could write 1 paragraph about each one. Okay, this could be talking about all the techniques and the arguments where people have destroyed his humanity. People like Tata Westbrook, all the haters who were dancing on his grave, calling him out for being ungrateful and the narrative being the bad person. He's like the bad guy. Defending James Charles because he's a teenager. Everybody makes mistakes. He's innocent. He apologized. And being poor role models comes to the last section here. How people aren't thinking for themselves, it's mob mentality, and we're not giving people a second chance, and therefore being bad role models. Done. That's the essay. Okay, so that's our structure. So we could write a whole essay like this, and that will be part 2. So hope you enjoyed this, guys. That's our stream for today. If you didn't watch it, hopefully you saw this afterwards and you enjoyed this. That's how I would run through this live. Okay. If I was in class, which will be in 2 weeks, that's how what I would do in class. I'll write it live. Next period. Next lesson, maybe tomorrow, maybe Thursday, we'll see. I'll actually write the essay live. I would normally do it in half an hour, but I'm not sure how long it'll take on the live stream because I'm talking at the same time. But we'll start writing our essay. Now, if you're watching from my class and you were kind of halfway through this and you go, wow, that looks pro, then you might want to go back now and fix and add more to your analysis. And hopefully that gives you a better picture as to what I'm looking for and what a person needs to do to fully analyze an article like this. You completely rip it apart. By the way, this is Schwezins. Even the writing has been going on, right? This is good. Before we saw like one word kind of notes here, this is now what we're seeing here. Well done. This is what we're supposed to be doing. So do what Schwez is doing right now. Like go back and add more detail. This is great. This is what you should be doing. Annotation should not just be one word. It should help you think about and put in your head what this person is doing. In the end, I will ask you, what is this person trying to do? I'm going to show you, by the way. I'm sure you can see before the very beginning of the video. Now it's like, this is what it looks like. That's a great amount of detail. So definitely add more detail to your annotations. Again, you don't really have much space on a paper, but when you can, try to include detail so you can go, all right, I've got a better picture of what I'm doing or what this person is doing. So when I kind of summarize 2 or 3 main arguments, I can go, well, there's a lot of stuff about, jumping the bandwagon, being a mob. There's a lot of stuff about he's only 19. These make sense. So I'll leave this here. Thank you for your patience. Hope this helps. I know it's pretty weird now when we come back to school in a couple of weeks, but hopefully this sets the right tone for you, then gives you the right resource so that you can go forward the next few days and be able to do your own practice analysis and do your own essay. Eventually we'll build to the essay part. We'll teach you structure a bit later, but I will model how I do it first, and then later on we'll come back and instruct it. Anyway, take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe and stay sane. And I'll see you next time.